Hello there, World of Tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, World of Blitz, and in today's video, I'll be talking about how I believe Wargaming is killing their game. A year ago, Update 9.1 was released into the game, and Update 9.1 featured some of the biggest changes ever seen in World of Tanks Blitz. The TVP 5051 went from having a 2-second entry clip to a 1.5, which was monstrous. The 4005 went from having 3 shells with 460 alpha to 4 shells with 410, giving it a lot more clipping damage, around 200 more. Look at other vehicles. The AMX-50B got an additional shell. Vehicles like the T-57 Heavy got shell reload boost. The majority of Tier 10 was massively changed, and definitely for the worse. And 1 year later, Wargaming is once again rebalancing all of Tier 10. In today's video, I'll be breaking into the simple reasons on why rebalancing all of the game is an absolutely terrible idea, not only on the player base, but for the future of the game. So let's get straight into it. Let's start off with Wargaming's balancing team themselves. All of us know that Wargaming is pretty trash when it comes to balancing the game. They fail time and time again to just do simple changes to make tanks balanced. For example, the TVP went from actually a pretty balanced tank in my opinion to absolutely broken. And we're seeing that once again in the new changes that are presented in front of us. We have the STB-1, a vehicle that is currently the top performing medium. Well, Wargaming's buffing the crap out of it. They're making its premium ammo lose 10 damage per shot. Yeah, that makes sense. Not only are they giving it more DPM, but the premium ammo is also going to be AP, which is really stupid. So yeah, the STB-1, as I've gone over the changes, is going to be absolutely busted. The IS-7, a very strong tank. It's getting more pen. Okay, it needed more premium pen. What it didn't need was tungsten shells and an additional 150 hit points. Again, why are you doing this, Wargaming? The world doesn't know. Well, neither does Wargaming, because here's a fun fact that I learned a couple months ago. Wargaming does not test any of the changes they implement into the game. Yes, you heard that right. Wargaming does not test any of the changes they do. I have a friend who knows a friend that works in Wargaming, and he literally asked, do you guys test these changes? You know, when you're like, let's buff the TVP, or let's nerf this tank or that tank. No, Wargaming doesn't test them. They just write them down, and what happens, happens. It's actually incredibly sad, and that's why a lot of the times vehicles just end up being broken without literally any balance in sight. The scariest part about this is Wargaming is planning on rebalancing all of Tier 10 in one single patch. Yeah, it's not like they're rolling out these changes slowly throughout the year and seeing how they're working with the balance of the game. No, they're just going to change the entire balance of the game as we know it. Vehicles that are very strong right now might be dookie next update, and vehicles that are dookie this update might be broken next update. We've seen that for the FV2 and 7 Badger, a vehicle that went from probably one of the worst performing tanks to the best performing vehicle in Tier 10. And again, this is coming from a company that literally does not test what they are implementing into the game. Imagine a new drug rolling out on the streets. Let's say it's Stiffedra. It helps you get the tough problems up, right? Let's say Stiffedra rolls out on the streets, and then they just don't test the drug. There's no FDA approval, just throws the drugs right on the streets. You can buy it over the counter, and then you die from a heart attack taking it 2 seconds later because too much blood was pumping. Yeah, I mean, that is a perfect way to describe how Wargaming balances Tier 10. They don't test anything. It just, boom, rip it off like a band-aid. Let's see what happens to the game. Now, this is terrible for the game for a numerous amount of reasons. The first one is any casual player is now going to be bombarded with a bunch of statistics that they don't know how to comprehend. If you're a chill player, maybe a 40-ish percenter that just plays when you're on free time, trying to have a bit of fun, you finally just learned how to play, I don't know, your new Tier 10 Heavy. And now, boom, Wargaming changes that Tier 10 Heavy to have a completely different playstyle. You ground the IS-4 as your first vehicle because it's a great beginner tank? Well, too bad. Now we're nerfing the armor. Screw you. That's kind of how I think of these changes for the casual player. And let's say you're a casual player that doesn't pay attention to the news all too much. Well, guess what? All these changes are going to roll out at once. You're going to have no clue what the heck just happened. And every single Tier 10 that you're fighting is now completely different to what you remembered it being just the day before. So once again, Wargaming's kind of screwing over their casual players. But it's not even just their casual players. Let's say you're a player like me that averages over 3,500 damage in tier 10 and tries to be really stat-oriented. Well, you're also getting screwed, because whatever tanks that you enjoy right now, you might not enjoy next update, and more specifically, your stats might not enjoy it. For example, the AMX M454 is going currently from one of the strongest tier 10 heavies to next update what looks like a pretty not enjoyable tank. The vehicle is going from AP Premium to heat shells on the Premium, and Wargaming said they're also nerfing the Premium pen, which means the AMX M4 might have 300mm of heat if you're running Rammer. What? Yeah, so the tank's going right now from incredible AP penetration to heat pen, which looks to be pretty terrible. Not only that, the AMX M4 is losing frontal armor, it's losing damage per shot, and it's losing its tungsten shells. Oh boy, doesn't that sound very fun. So essentially, people right now that have the AMX M4 have a much, much better advantage over people that are going to have it after the next update, which is just a little unfair. It means that statistics you have in vehicles currently are going to be either inflated due to the fact the tank was better, or now they're going to be worse because of the fact the tank got nerfed. Anybody that buys tanks that got nerfed after the update are now going to have worse stats, even though they might be just as good as somebody else, just because of the time period they played the tank. And for example, let's say the TVP 5051. This vehicle is most likely going to get giga nerfed, and anybody that played the tank during its overpowered period and abused the tank is going to have like crazy damage stats, and then the vehicle gets nerfed, and now these people look like they're gods at the game when in reality they just played it before it was nerfed. So let's recap just about what Wargaming's done here so far. Wargaming doesn't know how to balance the game, and they also don't test their tanks, and they're planning on rebalancing the entirety of Tier 10. Add that into the fact that casual players probably aren't even going to notice changes happen until, boom, the day rolls out. Skilled players are going to be mad because whatever tanks they liked or didn't like are now going to be massively changed. Yeah, right now it seems like not a lot of people are happy. Don't worry, it gets worse. Let's talk about how Wargaming just screwed over a decent chunk of their paying customers on the AMX M4. The vehicle was sold literally just a month ago, and it's a great tank. It's got good alpha, great mobility, fantastic everything, and it makes sense that a lot of people would pick the vehicle up because it's such an enjoyable heavy. And then cue a month later and Wargaming showcasing the newly nerfed AMX M454. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with Wargaming changing tier 10 collectors or premiums. I don't have a problem with Wargaming trying to balance vehicles. I have a problem when they take a tank that's good and completely destroy it, especially when it costs money. As I said, the AMX M4 is going from a fantastic vehicle right now to, I mean, it's still not going to be bad next update, but it's definitely not going to be what it currently is, not in any way, shape, or form. Why is the vehicle getting heat shells as the premium rounds? Why are the premium rounds dookie on pen? Why is the vehicle losing armor? It just doesn't, the changes don't make sense. It's very frustrating. And for people that spent money on the game, and then Wargaming literally just a couple weeks later showing the stats and how they're completely changing the vehicle, wow, that is an absolutely terrible move from PR. Don't worry though, we're not done yet. There's still 2 more points I thought we'd talk about. First of all, it is the ever-increasing level of damage per minute in the game. I've talked about this in the past, and for some reason Wargaming can't wrap it around their tiny minds that maybe instead of just buffing over and over and over, they should just, I don't know, balance tanks? Is that hard to do? Apparently. I have personally said the idea of actually nerfing every single vehicle's DPM by a flat maybe 10 or 15%. That way battles last a little bit longer. Unfortunately, that is not going to be the case. Instead, what Wargaming's doing is they keep speeding up the game by increasing DPM. The Leopard just gets more and more and more DPM every single update. And don't get me wrong, the Leopard's a great tank and it deserves DPM, but 4,000 DPM? What? And now the Bat Chat is getting 1,050 clip potential. Okay, so that's a deadlier tank. And we can see the AMX 50B is gaining more DPM and better aiming time as an autoloader. The 5A is getting more DPM. Even though the AMX M4 is getting nerfed quite a bit, it is still gaining DPM. Type 71 is gaining DPM. The Object 140 goes from 3,500 DPM to 3,800. The STB-1 gets 3,600 DPM. There are so many tanks that are just getting massively increased DPM values. If you go back to when the 30B was first released into World of Tanks Blitz as a Tier 10 collector, it had pretty similar DPM to the rest of the Tier 10 mediums. It was a little bit lower, but it made up for it on the mobility and the armor. The 30B now has the worst DPM in tier 10 for mediums, and it's quite a bit worse. What? Yeah. DPM from probably 4 or 5 years ago to now has increased on all mediums by about 400 to 500. Hit points on all the heavies have massively increased. And yeah, it's pretty bad. It's just making the games faster and faster and faster. Now we're seeing the heavies getting more DPM. The VK-72 is gaining damage per minute. The E100 is gaining alpha. All the tank destroyers are gaining alpha, and most of them DPM. Object 263, 4,000 damage per minute. I mean, it's a little stupid. It's really stupid. And finally, we get to finish off with the fact that Wargaming doesn't care about our opinions. If you were to make your way over to the official World of Tanks Blitz Discord, you can see that there's a lot of opinions being made about tanks being changed. The Grill 15, for example, is getting a nerf. It's, sure, gaining DPM, but the alpha's going down, which is something that the Grill needs, is the alpha. I don't care how much DPM they give the tank, it should have over 600 damage per shot, and yet it's losing it. And the majority of people agree with me on the fact that this is a stupid change and this shouldn't be happening. Over 3,000 people have put thumbs down on the Grill changes, and like 200 have put thumbs up, and they're all probably Wargaming employees. It shows that clearly nobody wants this change to happen, and that's for a good chunk of the vehicles. I would say a good 40 to 50% of the tanks that Wargaming has listed the changes for, people have disagreed with. And yet, Wargaming does not care. These changes will still roll out. Wargaming will not change what they've said. So what's the point of even having thumbs up and thumbs down if you're not going to listen to your community? Really stupid. I should also point out that it seems every single year Wargaming is planning on rebalancing all of tier 10. So again, any of the stats that you might get this year are completely irrelevant next year. Don't get me wrong, I like change, and I like balancing of tiers and everything, but doing it all at once is the dumbest thing you can possibly do. It should be done in slow changes. Maybe they can do it each nation at a time. Every month, do a different nation that gets changed. But do it slowly so you can figure out how these vehicles work in the balance of the game. Just doing these changes right out of the blue is such a stupid idea. I'm personally very mad. We've seen how bad Update 9.1 was. A lot of the players have left the game due to it. And now we're getting Update 9.1 version 2. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.